All right, we got two crazy finishes. I apologize for not tapping in here on YouTube, but what I would say is, as always, you can find a breakdown of every game on my Patreon. Today's is 16 minutes, and when you see the time and effort I put into those, I think you understand why sometimes I can't get to YouTube. And it was just a 48 hours of stuff and having camera trouble. I'm here on OBS because my camera keeps breaking. But I digress. We've got two big wins, one at home and one on the road last night. Let's start with Sacramento. I have some thoughts on that one. Clay with the game winner. Overall, I just think it was great to see him with that joy and that smile and getting that glory. And I think that he has been much more patient and playing within the flow of the offense. He had two spectacular passes last night that weren't cashed in. But listen, I know that Draymond kind of read between the lines, throwing a little shade towards JP in the post game and stuff, and Kerr's trying to clean it up. The reality of it is Chris Paul's presence, I think, has made Clay more patient. He knows he's going to get shots and he's going to get touches, where when it was Jordan in that role, Jordan wanted to dance and get his shots up because that's what he does. And those two together both kind of put them each other in Chuck mode. And so CP's presence, I think, keeps Clay more patient. And you've seen the payoff these last few games. The pull-up going left over, who was that? Was that Davion on him? I can't remember. There's so much has happened since then. But I think the interesting wrinkle out of that Kings game was Mike Brown throwing a zone at the second unit to neutralize the Chris Paul pick and rolls. Now, they got caught off guard with it, but I think that overall that second unit has the personnel to diffuse zones. You've got Dario as a stretch big, right? And then you saw in the second half, they flashed Kuminga middle. Kuminga is a great zone buster getting to the middle. He has the midi. We know what he can do at the rim. And so I think that they have to prepare to see that more often to try to neutralize that second unit. OKC didn't really do it, but I think other teams will. Now, Steph, in Sacramento, we're talking still. Again, forgive me for being late, but what did he have, 9 turnovers? And I know I saw some people kind of hypothesizing that he had hurt his knee. I saw he went knee to knee with somebody early in that game, Sabonis. And whenever you get it on the inside of the knee, it's worse. The inside sweep hurts twice as much, but he shook it off. I don't think that's what it was. I think that Steph has been so hot lately, right? The 40 balls. He went into that game thirsty to continue the hot streak. There's whispers of MVP talk here very early. But he's hot, he's shooting well, and he wanted to score, and Mike Brown wasn't having none of it. He's like, we're sending two at you from the jump. And I think that Steph allowed himself to get frustrated, right? Instead of accepting the traps and the double teams, he wanted to dribble a little bit extra, and he just kind of got in his feelings and got frustrated that he couldn't go off because he knew he could, and they weren't letting him do it. And so that's what led to those turnovers and kind of the off night is, and you can't blame him, right? You can't blame the best shooter in the world. He's hot start. He's like, oh, you're really just going to trap me at midcourt. But he's got to learn to move that. I shouldn't say learn. There's a lot of the time he's more willing to do that. But against Sacramento in that game, he wasn't, and you saw the results of the 9 turnovers. I think he can learn from Chris Paul how to deal with some of those traps in the pick and roll and the way Chris Paul changes his angles and kind of takes an angle to get the pass, right? But it's a little different because Steph's always hunting the shot. And so when he comes off and he's hunting the shot, he doesn't necessarily have the angles that CP has off that screen. But getting a little too coachy and X's and O's here. But that's what I saw with that. Draymond. It's 2 games now. This 3-point shooting is a real thing. The Draymond 3-ball is a real thing. Because he's not only mentally has Draymond flipped a switch into becoming a more offensive-minded guy. Clearly, you're seeing his aggression, but he's clearly worked on his mechanics in that 3-ball, and it's bringing a tear to my eye. I've been asking for it for 3 years, 4 years, right? And what it looks like to me is it's just a quicker release. And it means less elevation. So he's not elevating as much, and it might even be a little bit lower. I have to double check, but it's certainly quicker. And what he's done is there's less room for error. Like the higher you jump, the more you bring the ball up and have parts to your shot, the more room there is for a hiccup, a backpack, whatever you want to call it. And so he's made it much more compact and quick, a release like a flick. But then maybe even more importantly, he's taking it with confidence. Last night I saw him hop to the ball in the corner and pop it. I haven't seen that since post Durant. And so the Draymond aggression offensively in the three ball, it might be the most exciting thing individually that's going on right now, because you know what that means moving forward. And I said it in today's breakdown. Again, I'm not here to try to throw shade at Poole. It is what it is. Y'all know how I feel about him. But I think what we're seeing is, and I was concerned about this too, is Draymond is rewarding the organization for choosing him in that scenario. Because it was like, hey, his last final big contract, is he going to I said he's came into camp out of shape, but clearly behind the scenes, he's been working on that jumper more so than we've seen in years, right? And his mentality, he looks hungry for more jewelry. And that's an exciting thing, because I wasn't sure what his mindset would be after all of it went down, right? All right, let's jump into last night's game, the first in-season tournament game. Them courts, very subjective, right? But I think overall, listen, for whatever you want to talk trash about this concept and then a money grab from the NBA, it seems to be working. I know it was just one night of it, but from the standpoint of the players, it seemed like there was something extra on the games last night. Like the players do care, and it seemed like there was an extra juice beyond the uniforms in court, right? So I'm all for that. I wanted to highlight Moses Moody, because he's kind of been a forgotten man here in his year 3 jump, and he is defensively becoming who I think we hoped he would be. Now, he may not be a point of attack defender. He may not have the foot speed for that, but there was a sequence last night where he made like 4 switches, like bang, bang switches out of movement, and then stayed long and just was played big. And he knows, again, the personnel. He blew up a handoff to Isaiah Joe, forced a big Jalen Williams to shoot the 3. Defensively, I just can't say enough how impressed I am as far as where Moody is today from where he was as a rookie and even a year ago. I think that's a huge deal. The shooting speaks for itself. He's shooting 50%. Speaking of shooting 50%, now let me see if I can nail this. Dario Saric. Forgive me. I'm respect to the man, that it's a hard pronunciation for me. But listen, if he is going to get the threes that he's been getting there at the top out of the pick and pop, he's going to shoot 50% from 3 too, right? I understand the limitations as a rim protector and in the paint, but it's just a math game out there. If he's going to hit 50% and make 2 or 3 a game, and what that does for the offense and what it unlocks for different rotations. And I said this today as well, like Dario was the 12th pick in the draft to the Sixers. It's been a while, years ago. But I think what maybe I didn't realize, or people don't realize, is if you're the 12th pick, you're a lottery pick coming out of Europe, that means you were like a star over there, right? I think Dario's paradigm and his environment growing up as a basketball player, he was a star lead guy. Now, he's settled into being a role player in the NBA after some injuries, but his mentality, his confidence, his expectations of himself, like he's unfazed. Like he expects to be in the game and making big plays in big moments. And I think you see that in the fit. So yeah, I would love defensively, I would love for him to try and take some charges. I hate saying that, because you see Sabonis and some of these guys slide over and take them, and it feels cheap. But if he's not going to play vertically and he can't protect the rim, slide over and take charges, because we've seen him too many times just kind of get caught in between. Like, are you contesting? Are you getting back? What are you? You're doing nothing, right? But all in all, huge night from him, right? 4 threes in that first half. Everyone was shooting the lights out, right? Everyone was shooting the lights out. And then how about Kuminga? 19 points in 22 minutes, all within the flow of the offense, right? It was that third quarter where he carried us for a while. You saw more pick and roll with him and Chris Paul, or just flashing to the middle of the floor, not asking him to dribble and create his own shot. You see how efficient he can be. Now, there was some switching issues, he and Wiggins. And listen, I feel like I can't complain too much about the defense in a game where there was almost 300 points on the board, like at just the shooting from Dort and these guys, they were just on fire. Sometimes it's going to be what it's going to be. Now, I did want to give a couple thoughts on this young Oklahoma City Thunder team. No SGA. went out very similar to the way De'Aaron Fox did earlier in the week. Rolled an ankle late in the game, finished the game, and then, he's out. But in watching that game previously, the Pels actually won that on the back end of a back-to-back with no Zion either. SGA rolls the ankle. He's clearly limping around, and he comes down the floor and he has the ball for 5 straight possessions with no one else on the Thunder touching the ball. And I was like, dang, he kind of has the ball too much, bro. And when you look at the Thunder's roster with J-Dub, Giddey, and now Chet, these are all guys that can be offensive hubs and are dynamic with the ball in their hands. And so I get it. SGA is a top 10 player in this league at this point. But I think that he has the ball too much. And watching their performance last night, it shows you that. Now, Dort's not going to shoot 9 of 9 from 3 or whatever it was. But again, he's going to have to be willing moving forward to play a little bit off the ball and do some of the other team-oriented things, I think, for this Thunder roster to meet its true potential. So we'll see how that goes. But Chet's super impressive. I know Wemby is all the rage right now, rightfully so. I actually like Chet a little more, long term. Now, it may ultimately come down to who is more durable and who's able to stay healthy. But I like Chet's competitiveness, his motor, his physicality, his just overall feel for the game. Granted, he's a little bit older, right? And I think Wemby may be a more dominant scorer. But I think overall floor game, I think Chet may be more complete. Really impressed with him. Giddey and Kuminga. You saw that his 6th, 7th pick thing. They were kind of going back and forth there for a while. Giddey tried to take over, and he has an awkward rhythm, right? And then he's like, what is he, 6'8"? But he picks the ball up. He gets downhill and he picks the ball up when you don't expect it, right? And then when you're not expecting it, now you're not ready for the contact. So he's picked it up early and now he's got his shoulder into you. You're not ready for that. And then he's mastered that gather where when he gathers it, he kind of buys himself an extra step and then you see the float game. So he's a really unique player. But again, I'm curious to see how they're able to utilize all that talent properly because they certainly have it. But end of the game, we come through, pull it out. I feel like I've already talked about it again because of the breakdown, but obviously the goaltend, no goaltend call. I just think we can argue the rules and did he see this and that? I just think in the spirit of the game, it was the right call. Now you can say, Alk, you're biased, you're a Warriors fan. I am, but I like spirit of the game calls. Neither Giddey touching the net nor Draymond tapping the side of the rim affected the shot, and so just let it count. It was a hell of a flip shot over Chet. Steph, a easy, quiet 30 ball, right? But I know I think everyone said this already pretty much, these are the type of games they would lose last year, right? And now they've pulled 2 of them off in a row, and it just feels like we got that old thing back, right? We got our mojo back, baby. So it's early on, but the chemistry and everything is it's really exciting. It's really exciting how things are coming together. I'll leave you with this. They had sent the rookies to the G League before this road trip, and I was complaining because you saw that was a bad matchup for Looney. Chet Holmgren and the young quickness on that team was asking too much of Looney. And then now we go to Cleveland with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, and then Detroit's got a bunch of young bouncy kids. And it was like, why are you sending Trace to the G League for this road trip? You heard Draymond speak on it after the game, and what do you know? They put him on a flight to Cleveland today, right? So, as long as they corrected it, I just didn't like that. I thought that I understand Podziemski when you look at the guard depth, but our front court depth, I think you're going to need Trace in uniform most nights, depending on the matchup and the foul trouble. So I'm glad to see that they corrected that and got away with it last night in Oklahoma City. But I expect to see him on the rest of this road trip. As always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.